people that were outside of storytelling, at least trying to connect where we sometimes can assist one another or have things in common to share or ways of sharing. So our Southern Piedmont region would love to invite you to our May meeting, our regional meeting on May 14th from 7:30 to 8:30 in the evening. And this would be a very informal cross meet where we could share together with each other information about ourselves and what we do. So that's kind of what I wanted to throw out there without taking up a lot of your time. I've participated in storytelling for over 30 years now in various regions of the United States because we've moved around. And always I have met with members of storytelling groups who were also writers. So I just thought it would be fun, especially having met Vincent and he's joined our guild. I thought it might be fun to just kind of cross meet and have an opportunity to get to know each other.
Well, thank you, Deborah. And we're glad you're on the call. I'm looking at a screen here, so I'm just going to go through the little box, like the Brady Bunch or whatever that is. So I'm going to, the first person that I see out here is MJ Sims. And did I catch you with food in your mouth, MJ? And if I did, I'm so sorry. And I can move to another person. But can you tell us a little bit about?
I'm good.
Okay. Can you tell us about yourself, your story, and your new book, especially about helping writers, and how that might be something that Storytelling Guild could help to get the word out about. So I'll be quiet, and it's your turn to talk, MJ. You've got the open mic.
I think I will come in slow from my section. I don't know what it is with my internet or Wi-Fi, but it tends to be slow. So I'm not sure. First, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm going to try and give an abbreviated version of my writing. I've written what began as a trilogy and turned into a series about a contemporary professional young woman who happens to be African-American and very carefree and enterprising. And all of my plots are political because my background is political science. Just when I was completing my fifth novel in the series, some colleagues approached me about doing a writing guide or a handbook for new and emerging authors. That was because I have been presenting at conferences for a little while now on becoming an independent book author / publisher. So they told me to take my PowerPoint notes and start from there. And that's what I did. And everywhere I go now, whether in person or a few of my first large gatherings, if you will, in person, and people ask me about my writing and they find out I'm working on a writing guide or handbook for new and emerging authors, that's what they're interested in. Many of these people have stories to tell. For whatever the reason, they have not put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard, and they need a little encouragement, a little push. Also, many have been looking for literary agents for years and are almost giving up. And in the handbook, it talks about how to proceed while you search for a literary agent. And it's literally a step-by-step guide from writing, with writing standards for creative writing, all the way through how to actually format your book, put it in digital printing format, put it in ebook. I even introduced them to audiobook conversion, but I don't go into detail there because that's not my specialty. But essentially, the bottom line is, as I say, I put my fifth book on hold because of the interest in the handbook. And the handbook is 99.9% ready, except I keep going back, tweaking it. So in another month or two, it should be available. That's it.
Will this group be able to beta read that guide before you actually go to final publication?
I hadn't thought about that, but if you'd like, I can do that.
Well,
can
I
send
for
it.
one would love to get a beta read, and
Okay.
you know, and if you have, if you have a section in there about groups and you know, like organizations like the North Carolina Writers Network.
Yes, yes.
If you don't, you could certainly think about a chapter maybe just for that, and that's one way to encourage new writers. And I'm thinking probably the Storytelling Guild would be another organization that you might be able to bring in, because I'm sure a lot of the writers there who are speakers, who are maybe not yet published writers, would love to, could probably benefit from your advice.
Vincent, no problem. In fact, I would appreciate input before I hit the enable button. So that's to you. And how would I send it to the to Ms. Winkler?
If you get it to me, MJ, I'll distribute it to everyone on this call, and I'll make it available to other people. Yeah, just you don't have to go out to 9 or 10 people or 20 people. If you send me the manuscript as a PDF maybe, and then I will go ahead and email that to everyone on the call who's interested in getting a copy of that, and I'll survey it and see if there's others. The other thing too, MJ, we could do is if you can write a short story about the writing of the story, we can publish that in the Senior Savvy Trail Tales.
All right.
There's 3,000 people out there who read that, and I know that at least 150 of them are probably wannabe authors. They are writers, but they just haven't figured out how to take it to the publication stage. So that one more opportunity, and that idea, by the way, came from Audrey and Larry. I'm acknowledging you guys. I just haven't had a chance to catch up with MJ since our last conversation.
Okay.
I didn't mean to seek acknowledgement. She's gonna beat me up because I said that.
No. It was a great idea. I wish I had thought of it first, but I think it's a great way to get the word out to a lot of people who want to be authors, who just don't have the the bandwidth yet to pursue that. So MJ, thank you for publishing that. And maybe there's a spot, you'll know more if you do join that call on May 14th, you'll know a little bit more about whether there's a ready audience for what you have to share to the Storytelling Guild. Deborah, if that makes sense.
Yes.
The next person I see on my screen is Laura, and Laura's just turned her back and she's got her mouth full of food. So do you want me to come back to you, Laura? I'll come back to you. Barb Baker, you're the other person on my screen right now. Tell us a little bit about where you are with your poetry and where you want to go, and even before you're published, if it's something that you might want to get in front of a group of people and tell about your poetry or read your poetry. But you're on mute right now, so you have to unmute yourself. Or unmute yourself. Can't hear you, Barb.
Right there. I'm trying.
Okay.
I can't see you. I don't know what I did to the screen, but I don't know how to make it bigger again. Okay, there. Ta-da! Wow. All right. I'm not up to much. I'm trying to figure out. I keep finding more poetry, and what I'm struggling with as a writer is who cares? I mean, this was all really personal stuff that I wrote, a lot of it a long time ago. And a part of me is like, why would anyone else ever want to read that? And I'm not looking for everybody to go, oh, come on. I'm just saying that that's my struggle, is that you all feel really ambitious to me and really driven to share what you want to say. And I'm like, I don't know if anybody else really wants to hear this, and why would I put it out there? I guess I feel afraid I don't know if that's the right word. Timid, perhaps. Just, I don't know. And that's where I'm at. You want to know, you got the truth.
I think timid might be a good word. And I know that there's people on this call right now who have gone through the same timidity, and struggled with whether to get their story out there or not, and made a conscious decision to do it. And just fortuitous that on the screen right next to you is Tatisha. And so Tatisha can tell you, you may remember, she came to one of our meetings about a year ago and brought her daughter with her. And her daughter did a thing about young entrepreneurs to ring,
I remember her.
I remember you too, Barb.
Right after that meeting, we lingered on a little bit. And Tatisha said, I have a story to tell about my husband and about my experience as the spouse of an incarcerated man. And we talked, and it's like the Holy Spirit came down and kind of lit a fire. And right now she's got a hot book on her hands and it's being sold. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Tatisha, and tell us about, why you were timid and how you overcame your timidity. I won't say fear because I don't think.
Well, I'll let you guys know that you definitely helped me to embrace my writing. I've always was a writer, never just display my writing. I knew I had a story to tell, and I knew that I needed to help others, because the story that you tell is not for you. It's for you to release it to aid someone else's recovery or health or whatever it is that they need. So throughout the time that I was here in North Carolina, I didn't understand what I was going through. And then I realized that God was taking me on a journey, and I wasn't going to be revealed what I was supposed to do until the story was finished for Jesus to release it to me, to release it to the world. I suffered with depression, did not understand that I was going through depression for 7 of the 10 years that I went through it. Once I realized what I was going through the research, wow, there's more women out here like me, but everybody live in silence, because if you say you need mental health services, they think you're crazy. No, you're not crazy. You just need to be balanced, because life gets overwhelming sometimes. And not understanding the adverse effects of incarceration is what I was dealing with. I didn't understand PTSD. I didn't understand post-incarceration syndrome. I didn't understand withdrawals. I didn't understand any of these terms. So it caused me to go in a darkness, trying to figure out what I was faced with my husband. So I came up with the name of the book. I thought it was a great idea for the book. It's his life. And I say it's his life because if it wasn't for him going to prison, then I wouldn't have a story to tell, right? And it became our story because I married him on the journey. So it's his story, his life, our story is the name of the book. I forgot to hold on to me while holding on to him. I was so busy trying to figure out how to make him whole and make him right and get him reacclimated back into society. I forgot about the self-love and self-care for myself. So that's the heart of the book, teaching, and it goes deeper than just being behind the physical prison walls, because I always like to say, being behind the physical prison walls comes with an expiration date. But the sad story is, if you become mentally locked up, you never know if you're going to ever escape. Wow. And that was my battle, not knowing if I would ever escape what I didn't even know that I was facing. So what that has triggered is I am on my second book. God told me that I cannot release a whole book out about my mother, because the next book was supposed to be in her life, our story. But she's not geared up to handle what I have to say, and the truth hurts sometimes, right? So God told me that I would be able to release a blurb about my mother, and I am to do an anthology. And I said, well, Jesus, what's this whole anthology? I'm just entering the book world. What is an anthology? What am I supposed to do with it? He said, you do the work and I'll do the rest. Well, God kept his word. Within 1 hour of him giving me the message, I had 6 women and still had someone stand by wanting to be a part of this anthology. And that's about hiding. The book, His Life, Our Story, just triggered, it just unraveled feelings that I was having, in the inside, internally, that been buried. We all have childhood trauma. We're told, what happens in his house stays in his house. So all those things wrapped up just woke up more feelings. So now I am entering a world where I'm talking to the little girl inside of me. The little girl that's wrapped up into the woman that I walk around in every day. That little girl is still embedded inside of me.
Who you mean?
So the name of the new book is Adulting My Childhood Pain, Not to Hurt You, but to Heal Me. Because I have to tell my story, and there are going to be people who's going to know who their characters are, but I can't worry about how it's going to impact someone else, because do you ever get to heal if you're always told to put it away? You never heal. So I have to deal with my own healing, and that's where I am right now.
Got it. I'm inspired. I don't feel damaged. I feel a little weird. Not with anything you said, but just COVID did a number on my head.
Absolutely.
It really did. I won't lie. And I was, I was married to an alcoholic for 9.5 years and abused and went beyond it, ended up getting an education, teaching for 26 years. And basically, if you don't put the dates down, I look like a retired divorced teacher. But if you'll pardon my language, I put the shit life behind me. I'm not unpacking that one. But
Right.
the poetry that came out of some of that and out of my basic life I've never sat down and said, oh, I'm going to write, other than when I was teaching for little children, I never sat down and said, oh, I'm going to write a poem about how I feel right now. Or I'm going to write a poem about love, or I'm going to write a poem about the breakup, or I'm going to write a poem. It always just comes out of me. And sometimes it doesn't make any sense, in a sense of there's no rhythm to it, as far as, oh, that's my years of being with Tom. Oh, that's my years of being alone. Oh, that's my years of going to college. To do an anthology feels overwhelming to me, because the dates would be scattered all over the place in my brain. And then a part of me goes, but who cares anyway? And that's what I'm struggling with. I've been invisible for 13 months.
Well, we're gonna have to stop that.
Oh,
We're
no,
gonna
I
have to-
know, but I'm just saying that what you realize sometimes, I don't go down the rabbit hole anymore that I was going down during COVID, but it's easy to be invisible, and there's not a lot of pain or second guessing or anything else. You're just kind of drifting. And yeah, that's about where I'm at right now.
There's one more thing that I did forget to tell you guys that came out of this whole anthology. So prior to moving to North Carolina, I am a retired hairstylist. I've been doing that since 13 years old, up until the time that I relocated here about 11 years ago. And being a hairstylist, you become a therapist, right? So I didn't understand that God was teaching me how to be a counselor, right? So now I have all these women who follow me and want my advice, and I'm like little old me and don't give myself much credit. But he's showing me this new journey that he has me on. And then when he gave me the anthology, those same women, when they saw that I published a book, how do you write a book? That was the question that was in my DM all the time. How do you write a book? What do I need to do? So in the process of getting the women for the anthology, God laid me down and gave me a whole 8-week package program. And I am teaching these women how to write a book in 8 weeks. And so far, it's been phenomenal. And we are at the closing of our book now. We started about 6 weeks ago, and we're at the end of it. And the anthology is a push. So hopefully I can be their writing coach to write their own biography. So yeah, it's just amazing of how the writing world is just amazing to me, how it just keep evolving into more, more craft. And I'm just loving it. I'm just glad to be a part of all of this.
Good for you.
Keisha, it's amazing to me.
Thank you.
It's amazing watching this Venn diagram just in this group, because I'm thinking that you and MJ could probably collaborate and cross.
I already thought about that. I was looking her up on Facebook while I was sitting here.
Yeah, I'm thinking you guys could probably amplify each other's work and again, amplify the work of the other folks on the call and the other ones who couldn't join us because of the conference. But as far as in the anthology, Barb, people like poetry because it is a release. It reveals some of the pain, but also some of the joy. And I know because I've read your poetry, and you have both in ample measure. As far as putting it all together, as far as structure, that's something we can all help each other with. Right now, I'm working with Christina. She's put together 4 or 5 different stories about her life from all the way back when she was a young girl in Armenia and
Romania.
I'm sorry,
It's okay.
to her current status. And it's a matter of almost at an alpha read, helping provide some structure so that there is like an arc. Last time around and the time before, we talked about the W and about developing an arc and developing the storyline. So, and since you're next up, Christine, if you want to just share briefly, what your goal is with your book and what brought you to reveal your pain, and what do you hope to have readers learn from your story?
Hi, everyone. Yes, I suffered in silence. I had a car accident that left me disabled, and I was in pain for a long time. And after I got better, I decided how to heal on my own. What was the ways, because whatever I tried, it didn't work. And like it was God over my shoulder to give me a second chance in life. And I found I went to the library and I found the Vincent's number someone handed to me. And it's just like, I didn't know I could be able to write. So now I'm writing like the first year was about my accident. And then I started to write about my childhood trauma that my parents, both of them, that they suffered in silence with addictions and being schizophrenic, that I never knew that they suffered, and how I was neglected. And basically I was on my own, taking care of my little brother, 10 years old, and I was 10 years old and looking after him and my path. And right now I'm writing, which I'm almost going to be finished, about my mother and my father. Basically my father, he was just basically like a single man. And my mother was like the wheelbarrow, as when I called my mom in an assisted living, that she was a wheelbarrow to her parents and to her husband. So I got emotional yesterday. I was like writing from like 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. I only had like a bowl of cereal and a couple of sips of water, but my emotions, I had to let it out. I had to. I was like, my story has to be out there. Basically, it's touching someone else's childhood trauma and how I healed. I made everything into humor. Everything, like, it's different for me right now because I let it all out finally after 53 years.
It's a beautiful read, Christina. I'm looking forward to working with you on that, collaborating with you on that.
Me too.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Laura,
Yes.
Are you done eating yet, Laura? Can you take yourself off?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, I'm done eating and playing with my cats.
Okay. Well, let everyone know what you've been up to.
Yeah, the second book in my Banshee Song series released in January. Also, just to go back, I write young adult fantasy and science fiction, just to remind you. So that book came out in January, and I actually in January, before that even released, I decided to start writing my very first middle grade novel. And I finished writing that one and actually got that to some beta readers, some young people to read that for me. And it's actually at the editors right now. And I have an illustrator and a cover artist, and I'll be releasing that myself this fall. And then in the meantime, since that's out, I've been working on another novel, a young adult historical fantasy. And that one is, it's historical. It takes place in Nuremberg, Germany in 1823. And it's a based on a real life teenage boy that lived there. But of course I have to add magic to it because that's what I do. I make everything fantasy. So yeah, I just finished that rough draft about a week and a half ago, and I've been going through doing my very first revision on it. And my plan is to get that completely ready to pitch. I have a writer's conference in St. Louis in July that I'll be going to, and I already signed up with the agents and the publishers that I'm going to be pitching to for that. So I'm hoping I can sell that manuscript. And then otherwise, I already wrote, back in November, I actually wrote book 3 of my current series that I already have a publisher for. So once I'm done this revision of this new book, I'll go back and revise that one and then get that to my publisher. So that one can come out in 2022. So that's what I'm working on.
So I have a question for you. Your books are successful, they're marketed, they're out there. Have you actually, though, done some storytelling using your own stories in front of groups of students who are young adults, middle school, high school age children, who would benefit from reading about the fantasy that you're evolving? Have you done that yourself, or have you entertained that? Because I think Storytelling Guild might be a way to get in front of some audiences that you might not have thought about before.
Yeah, well, like you had said, the young adult fantasy I have out now, I do heavily base on my own teenagers. They're just not fairies. That's the only difference. And then the middle grade series that I'm going to be coming out with this fall is actually based on my 10-year-old daughter. And so, yeah, I absolutely could see that being a help. I did do a Zoom call. I did an assembly for a 4th grade class, my friend who's a teacher up in New Jersey recently. And I did find actually that it was very easy, like when they were asking a lot of questions about the writing, it was actually very easy to kind of segue into stories and just kind of like tell them where I've been, where I've come from, experiences I've had, or even just relate it to my own daughter who's in 4th grade. So yeah, I definitely think that kind of diving into a little bit more of a world of storytelling, like a verbal storytelling, would be very beneficial for the specific kind of writing that I do. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I know Deborah's probably taking notes right now, so thank you, Deborah. Jeannie, you're next on my screen in the little diagram I have up here. You want to tell us a little bit about Brutus the Junkyard Dog and where you're at with it and what you hope to do, and if there's storytelling opportunities in your future with schools that you're trying to influence and children you're trying to influence?
Okay, thank you, Vincent. I'm in the process of asking for the beta readers, and my illustrator has completed all of her pictures. She's now drawing on the hot press paper for the final illustration. Brutus is my story of being an angry person up until I was about 55 years old, not knowing how to behave differently, not really having a good example in my life. And so Brutus is an angry junkyard dog, and he chases animals away and learns how to live differently. And I think in this day and age, particularly with parents that work and kids that are alone, you kind of grow up on the street. That's what I did in New York. And they get set in their ways. And then if there's no one there to help them change their ways, they get caught up in behavior that's really dysfunctional. So Brutus is the younger me. I don't like him until the story ends, and then I just love him. So it's happening, and I still think this is some kind of story in itself. But thanks to Vincent, he makes it very real to me and is very encouraging. So I'm good to go.
Well, great, Jenny. It was good to have the resources available and to have Jim Nettles, who's not on this call tonight, but to have his guidance, because I think one of the hardest kinds of books to write is a children's book, especially an illustrated children's book, because you're having to deal with with fewer words, more pictures, and yet you're trying to bring across a compelling message. And I did the beta read, and I think you've nailed it. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Bill Cottrell, Dr. Cottrell, you are next on the screen here. You've got 2 books under your belt. You want to share a little bit about the genesis of your stories, and if there's an opportunity you think that you might want to get in front of people and tell your story?
Well, possibly. Certainly both my stories are semi-autobiographical, especially my memoirs about my career and what. Sorry. My, stepdaughter, but yeah, I felt compelled to write my story. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Based on the fact that so many, quote, interesting things happened to me during my career, not the least of which I had a son that was incarcerated for a number of years. So I can relate and sympathize with Totisha and her situation, because the prison there truly is more than the prison walls. It's the prison that society puts on you when they view you through a different light, and how they view and interpret you. But my main goal was therapy when I wrote my memoirs, and I think I was successful to that extent. And but my other book, which just came out in November, was called Greenbrier Chronicles, and that was also very autobiographical. But I threw in one of the main issues of the day, my concern about the environment and global warming and how people review it. And I feel a little funny about that book, because I don't know how I integrated my life story with my environmental concerns. I was ambitious with the book, and I just don't know how well I did with that, but I tried. So I feel happy that I made an effort. And so where I stand now is that I don't consider myself a natural writer, but I feel if someone has a story, something they want to tell, I think writing is the best, very good way to do it. And if you're successful, you can find a certain amount of peace. I don't know what I'm going to write next. I keep thinking of different ideas. I'm kind of in a sabbatical from writing. I'm not. I am going to probably write some more, but I don't know exactly what I want to say. I've thought about topics like crime and punishment, because I have some experience. Am I still coming through? Okay.
Yes.
I have some experience with crime and punishment, and I think that's a phenomenally important issue in today's society, how we handle crime, what is crime, and how do you decide what's an appropriate punishment for any certain crime. And I've certainly seen the prejudice and bias that exists in our criminal system. And yet we're probably better off than many countries. So I don't have any, I've thought, since most people know I had my heart stopped from a rhythm problem in December, and I had to have CPR, and I've made a full recovery, but I thought maybe I should do something like write a diary of a dead man or something like that to explain my experiences. But that's such a self-serving topic. I'd like to get away from me as a topic and try to write about other subjects that are of general interest. And right now I'm meandering. I don't have a set agenda what I'm going to write about, but I have a lot of ideas, too many ideas. They haven't consolidated all together in a game plan. I admire Laura and her ability to churn out the novels, because I've read some of her work, and it's very good. It's very readable. I wish I was that prolific, but I just mainly want to stay in touch with the writers group and the things that are going on, and I feel sooner or later something's going to grab me. But I don't do well if I'm pressured. If I got to write ABC in a certain amount of time, I just enjoy appreciating other people's work, and looking forward to doing some more writing. But I don't have a specific game plan right now as we speak.
Well, Bill, there's one of the things that came to my mind is that maybe you could use this time to get in front of groups and talk about some of the topics in your book. When I read Greenbrier Chronicles, that the way you culminated your story with your passion for the environment would lead to any number of stories that you could tell in front of a group of people, like-minded people who are concerned about environmental issues. And of course, your story about your son and about incarceration in the criminal justice system probably couldn't be more timely with what happened a couple of days ago with the verdict up in Minnesota, right? So
Right.
Rather than thinking about writing, maybe you're at a stage where you might want to take a year and go on, quote unquote, the speaking circuit. So again, that's something that Deborah's group can maybe help us, understand, because you actually can get paid to do that, right? So
Okay, well,
we-
I'll keep an open mind toward those possibilities, and just trying to keep in touch. I feel something will come up, and I enjoyed writing, and I had a funny feeling about Greenbrier Chronicles because I wasn't sure if it was strained or if it was felt natural, but I felt like there were parts and chapters in there where I felt were good. I wasn't sure how it all fit together, because writing a book is such a challenge, in that not only do you have to have a story to tell, you have to have the ability to use the English language in a way that's easily read, and then doggone it, you have to make the whole thing fit together to make some sense. And that sounds easy, but I'm just an amateur, but I really enjoy the challenge, and I hope to do a little bit more of it. But yeah, like I say, I'm kind of in a lull, and I might my first book is still selling some, and I guess still get questions about it. And matter of fact, I'm supposed to meet with an Emory Medical School alumnus Monday. I'm going to make sure that they actually had an article in Emory Medicine noting my work, a little note in it, and I'm going to make sure that she knows that, and maybe she can drum up some business for me. But anyway, that's where I am right now. I'm kind of in a hiatus. So but thank you. I need to answer a phone call. It's my wife calling. So,
in the meantime, Tatisha has her hand up. Tatisha,
okay.
What is your question, Tatisha?
I just wanted to ask, have you ever thought about maybe taking the book that is still selling and creating a workbook that goes with it?
A workbook? Well, you mean like a self-help book?
Right.
No, well, the part about the prison of my son, that was an important part of my story, but it wasn't. It was just it was a small percentage of the whole thing. So I don't know how I would do that, but yeah, I think that's a good topic that I'd like to maybe explore more and do something with, but how that would work, I don't know.
Okay. Well, that's why we're here as a group, man. This is what groups do. They help each other, and we're going to try to figure this out.
I only asked that question because when I put my book together, I created a journal. So I'm learning that that's like one of my skill sets. I create the workbook when I make the book as well.
Yeah.
So it's like whatever's in the book, how can you create it to have a personal impact on the person who's reading it? Because it's like, now that you read the story, now do the work for the story.
Yeah.
So you kind of roll it back into that person.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's room to explore things like that. And it was one of the reasons I wrote the book, was to let people know I thought I was a good guy. And yet the people who, when I went to visit someone in prison, I personally was treated like I was pretty low down on the scale. I mean, I would just, I wasn't in prison myself, but I was next thing to it, and what else, what had I done wrong? So I'm totally sympathetic with your situation.
You showed up. That's what happened.
That's right. That's right. I apologize. I got to go answer some phone calls. I'll be right back.
That's fine.
in a minute.
Mr. Polk, you're on my screen here. James, can you unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about the stories you're trying to put together? And I know you've been published in Senior Savvy a number of times now.
Yeah.
How close are you to maybe making that turn into a book? And how do you feel about being on a speaking tour to tell your story about your ancestors and whatnot?
I don't know if I want to do a speaking tour or not. But I've been preparing, haven't been doing anything much right now, but that's my plan. I don't think I'm in a position or care about writing a full book. I'm more into short stories, and I would like to compile a number of those into a book.
Well, James, one of the things that you and I had participated in, and Christina recently, the Concord Library, Cabarrus County Library System, the Concord branch, has something called Reach Right Time, and it's a way to use the history of your family, the genealogy route, to actually develop a story. And you created an entire multi-part story about an ancestor who had suffered as a prisoner of war in a Union camp during the Civil War. And spoiler alert, he died and probably didn't need to die. But you told that story over five successive segments in the Trail Tales. I'm thinking that story alone would be something that you might think about as for the storytelling go, the genesis of the story and just an abbreviated version of it that you could share with school groups or community colleges or museums in the area, any number of places where people would relate to the experience. And I'm not putting you on the spot, just saying that May 14th, you might want to just join the call and see if there's a spot there and if it's something that you might be able to leverage. Audrey and Larry, I know you said you're still on mute, but can you share just a little bit for Deborah's sake and for some of the others who may not know what you've been doing with your book and your mission, because you turned it into so much more than just a book with your 501c and so forth. Can you share about that?
Eric's going to share tonight. Yes. One of the things once we wrote the book and had a few early book signings and discussions about the book before we left St. Louis was that the book was much more than just a story about raising our kids. It was how we built that village. It was how we were able to survive marriage with 3 ADHD sons and an ADHD husband. And it inspired us to think about it in a different way and to really see how we could help other families to create a village as we created for our sons. In that stead, what we've done, we've been working with another group who does mentoring and really trying to train parents on advocacy and how to become advocates for their children, particularly during COVID. And in the meantime, because of COVID, we developed a virtual learning series, which is on our YouTube channel called Enable Tables Media. And it basically gives a number of tools for parents and for adolescents to be able to be successful. How do you organize? What things do you need to put in place to be able to be successful in a totally virtual environment for school? In addition, now with the 501c3, we're writing a proposal to do basically like a longitudinal study in terms of looking at 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, connecting them with high school students as their mentors, but training both the student and adult mentors that will work with the high school students, that they would assist us in the mentoring piece that we'd already well established with our collaborators in working with those children to increase their primarily reading, but overall academic performance. And in the process, helping to build that bridge with the parents to get them to be more engaged and involved with the children, which multiple studies have shown that increases the children's performance if the parents are more interested and engaged in their learning. And trying to see the synergies that we can create, how much academic improvement can be created, while at the same time preparing these high school students by individual coaching about their careers, how they can be successful going forward into college, and hopefully have them to repeat the cycle. So that's what we're working on now. But an idea I haven't had a chance to work on, and I'm going to have to really at least get an outline together. Since we've been here in North Carolina, we got a dog. And one of my goals was always to write a children's story, since I'm a pediatrician by training. But I could never come up with an idea. Well, I finally got the idea in the body of that dog. The dog's a little hyper. And in fact, I have the title and the concept, but I've got to sit down and write it. John Henry, the ADHD dog. And to use that dog as a model to show children how they can use those talents which are associated with ADHD to become better and more resilient adults.
Jeannie, does that sound familiar?
Yes.
A little bit.
I love it when it comes together. Well,
And we've been listening to everybody talk about workbooks. You can hear John Henry in the background, he hears us. But anyway, to talk about workbooks, and I really like what's been said about doing that tonight. And as we move forward with our program, because Larry's calling it a study, I'm calling it a program to help kids. And what we'll be presenting can easily be a workbook. So now I've heard everything tonight has really put it to top of mind. And I do hope Larry will go to the story group and start telling the stories about John Henry, because believe me, he's got a book full already.
Did we catch everybody on the call so far? I think we did. Deborah, there's a few people that are not on the call that I want to just let you know about. Chuck Thurston, who was the regional representative cycles ago, couldn't be with us. His wife Heidi is had a medical issue, and she's actually trying to recover right now from knee surgery, but she also is dealing with Parkinson's and really having a hard time. So all the other people on this call already know Heidi and Chuck, and I'm sure you guys are all praying for them and hopefully sending good wishes their way. But Chuck has written a book and is writing a sequel to it that's a mystery thriller, and I'm sure that he would be he's a consummate storyteller, and I'm sure that if he can be on that meeting on May 14th, he'll have more than one story to be able to share with you guys. Another person who couldn't join us tonight is a member of our group, Kimberly Brulette. Kimberly has written a number of books in paranormal space, but her next book out is based on a true story. Kimberly's daughter committed suicide by gun, and Kimberly has written and is in the final stages of publishing a book to describe what that's like and how in the world did someone who was schizophrenic and had serious mental issues manage to get a gun in her hands. And it's not a political book. It's not anything on a political nature, but it does talk about good common sense legislation for red flag laws and that kind of thing. I think Kimberly is going to be on the 7 o'clock call, which is probably why she's not here right now. Another person who probably is going to be on that call, couldn't be in here, is Sharon Upton. And Sharon is just on the very final stages of writing a book called An Orphan's Heart. It's about a story about her mom, who just turned 100 years old, who grew up in an orphanage because her parents weren't able to, her mother wasn't able to support her mom because her father was killed in a card game. And she tells a story through her mother's eyes, through journaling, of what it was like to grow up in an orphanage in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and then the cycle of events that impacted her family. So there's more folks in our group that wish we could all be together. The timing, you know, here we are right in the middle of a state conference that's happening as we speak. So next month, hopefully we'll have some more folks that can share with you. And on May 14th in particular, Deborah.
Where's Tommy?
Tommy's house is in total disarray. He sent me an apology. He actually sent me a text message showing a picture of literally everything down. I don't think he could even find his computer. He's lucky he was able to find his cell phone. But you know, Tommy will be on the next call, and he's aware of the May 14th meeting. Tommy has written several short stories. Now he's in the final throes of a novel that he's writing. Also kind of a mystery thriller and science fiction. So I think everyone on the call who knows Tommy, he also is a consummate storyteller. And another storyteller who couldn't be with us tonight is Alberto Perez, who is also a former representative for this region. Alberto is writing the fourth of five books that deal with the second coming. And it's a cross, and I did a beta read on all of his books. It's a cross between Star Trek, Star Wars, and Revelation. He's got more characters packed into that book that imagine what the end times would look like. In the very beginning of the book, he says it's not a prophetic book. He's not pretending to take the place of John the disciple, nor pretend to be a prophet, nor does he want to be. But he's writing an entertaining what if kind of book. What if the world does really come to an end, and what is the nature of that end game? Fascinating read. So who did I miss, Barb? You know, you've been here. I'm missing somebody. I know I always do. Bill, anybody that you can think of that I need to talk about?
No, not offhand.
I'm sure.
What about Doris?
Yeah, Doris Lowry, Dar, right?
Oh yeah.
I couldn't think of her nickname.
She's not here. She's a poet par excellence, and again, she's struggling with getting her poetry out to written form, but she's written some really powerful work. And again, I encourage her to get past that initial fear, and we all have it. You know, I mentioned just a minute ago about Sharon Upton. Sharon was hesitant to publish her book. She's had it in the works for over 4 years now, and she was hesitant to publish it because of family members who she thought might not want to see some of their stories told in public. And you know, that's part of the issue. You are revealing a part of yourself, no matter how well you try to disguise it. In my case, I used a pseudonym in 2 of my books, and I thought for sure that would cover it. But the folks in my family who were represented by the characters in the books, they knew who they were, and they said, "I can't believe you wrote that about me." And I said, "Yeah, me too." And then, you know, I was in the dog. And really in the doghouse with my own wife, because I managed publishing part of her journal in one of the versions of the first book. So that almost put things on its end. But anyway, it happens. So I think part of what we're all experiencing is we're writing stuff, we're getting out some very, very raw emotions, and we're bringing it to a place where other people can read it and relate to the characters in our book. If it's a really good book, people are going to say, "I don't know who that person is, but I know who that person is because I know that person, and that person is me, or that person is my aunt, or that person is my wife or my daughter or my sister," and so forth. And all of you have managed to do that. I mean, just absolutely nailed it. So I think one of the strengths of this group and all the groups like this around the state in the North Carolina Writers Network is that we have these incubators where we can come together and read each other's work, encourage each other. You know, just sometimes that extra little nudge is all we need to get it to the next stage. You know, Tatisha's example of that, it's just like an extra 10 or 15 minutes after a meeting to say, you can do this, right? My own daughter wrote a book, Claudia Reuter wrote a book called Yes, You Can Do This. And she had it published by Wiley, and it's a book about women who leave the workforce because they had a child, and they are thinking about coming back in, but rather than going into the corporate ladder, Claudia is suggesting that they do what she did, and that is to be an entrepreneur and start her own company. And Tatisha can relate to that because that's what she did as well. So I think.
Vincent.
What's that?
This is MJ. I said, this is MJ speaking about Claudia's book. People, buy it and read it. It is an excellent read. Okay, it's an excellent read. That's all I'm going to say. Once you read my handbook, you'll know why I say it is an excellent read.
Thank you. If you go to hiddentreasurenovels.com and you go to the recommended book, you'll see a lot of your books up there, and you'll see Claudia's book up there too. So if you click on the link, it'll take you to either Wiley or Amazon or someplace where you can buy it. Hey, Bill, who's the young lady who just joined?
This is my granddaughter, Mariel. Yeah,
Hi,
six,
Mariel.
almost 7 years old, and they just got back. So I'm gonna have to go in a minute to help their supper.
Oh, quite understandable. Well, Mary, thank you for letting us have Grandpa for a while. You know, you must be really proud that your granddad is a writer and a published author. I see you nodding your head up and down.
Are you having fun with him? I can't hear you.
Yes. Say yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Way to go. Good for you.
How old are you, Ariel?
Almost 7 though.
6 years old? Oh my.
When will you be 7?
Okay, May 25th. Say
May 25th.
Awesome. That's
Oh.
great.
Okay.
My granddaughter will be 15 on May 23rd, 2 days before you turn. So she's 10 years older than you. It goes by fast.
Yep.
Wow.
Okay. Why don't you go back?
Well, Bill, thanks for joining.
All right.
Thanks for
Thank
sharing.
you. See you next month.
Yeah, okay.
Bye, Bill.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye, Bill.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, we're about to end the session because we have someone else I think are going to try to get on that next call. But everyone, I want to thank you for being a part of it. This is, you know, I can't wait till we can get back together. Right now, I've been told by Ed Southern, who's the president of the State Association, we are not allowed to get back until this COVID is totally resolved. So it might not be another 2 or 3 months before we can meet in person. So these Zoom calls once a month is the only way we can stay connected, other than, you know, picking up the phone and sending an email. But I encourage all of you to keep writing, and one-on-one, I'm working with several of you right now, with Jeannie and with Christina. So you know, we'll keep trucking along here with James Polk. And Deborah, did you have any questions for our group before we convene the meeting?
I don't think I have any questions. My head is just full with all of the energy and ideas that all of you have and are working on, and I wish you the best and hope that, you know, perhaps you'll be able to meet up with our storytelling region in May. And you know, because also a part of storytelling, many tellers tell personal stories. So for some of you, maybe that would be a special interest. But so thank you again for allowing me to visit with you.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
If you send us an email with the Zoom link information, I can get that in our next newsletter, and I can make sure that everyone in the group, even those who were not here tonight, are aware of it. I did post it in the newsletter last night or yesterday, but I didn't have the specific information. So if you send that my way, and I'll make sure everyone gets that. And I see Tatisha has her hand raised again. Tatisha, what's up?
Oh, you asked the question already. I was just trying to figure out how to get the information for the meeting.
Okay, so I will send that to you, Vincent, and then you'll send that out to your group.
Yep.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. Anybody else have any questions and observations? And Jeannie, go ahead.
If I'm at the stage of a beta writer, are any of these folks in your meeting tonight beta readers where I could ask them to read?
You know, I'll ask them to show that by a show of hands. If you guys know that on the bottom of your screen, there should be an icon that allows you to, it says reactions. And if you put like a thumbs up or a raised hand, that will be the easiest way to answer that question. So anyone, so
I taught kindergarten for, hang on,
you're muted.
my computer's acting up, my internet's acting up. I taught kindergarten for 26 years. If you wrote a children's book, I think I could beta read it pretty honestly, to tell you the truth.
Thank you, Barbara. How would I get your email?
Vincent has it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
He can be, if you don't mind being the middleman, Vincent.
Not a problem at all, Barbara.
Got her info, I've got your info, that kind of thing, okay? So
Thank you, Barbara.
you're very welcome.
Yeah, Barbara Baker, I'll get that information. And I see MJ, you have your hand up. Is that a yes? So you'd want to be a beta reader?
Yeah, that's exactly what that means, yes.
Okay.
Okay. MJ Sims. All right. Thank you very much.
Dramatic.
Maddox. Okay, got it.
Right, children's book. Or her.
You've got it. You have at least two folks.
I see all of these people up here that are into juvenile books. I need assistance with that. Vincent, you know, my daughter's trying to write her book. It's kind of a struggle with me as the mom. So if anybody would like to assist with that project, I would appreciate it.
John Henry, hold your head up.
You still have your hand raised. Is that a yes for helping Tatisha?
Oh, no. Let me take this down. How do I take it down? Oh, no, I got it. I didn't know you had to do that.
Tatisha, what do you mean by helper? In what way?
Just formatting for a little kid's book. I mean, I don't have any experience with a kid's book. It's easy to tell my story, but as far as a young kid's book, I wouldn't know how to put it together. We're just kind of brainstorming over here.
Yeah.
Well, Tatisha, if you can send me an initial manuscript, I'd be glad to take a look at it and see where we can go with that too.
Okay.
Some other people in our group that are not on this call that we can get it to.
Okay.
I might be able to help too. I'm better at reading what's already written, but to create it from nothing or just from an idea, I'm afraid I would have too much of my own input into it for it to be hers. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm teaching her through mapping concepting. So she kind of like creates her own maps, and then she has to describe what each, entity in the map, what they mean in detail. And we're coming up with it that way to kind of gain content. I think the biggest issue that we're looking to overcome is getting an illustrator, because again, the illustrator needs to be able to tell the story. And pretty much her book is just a spin-off of my book. It doesn't matter what my daddy did. He's still my daddy.
Absolutely.
Right.
So the purpose of the book is to teach her the confidence, because with social media being as prevalent as it is, someone's gonna definitely Google him and try to intimidate her with it. So I want to build the confidence up in her now so she knows how to handle it and be able to tell them. Nobody can tell a story like me. I already told it, so you can go purchase it.
Right.
Tatisha.
Yes.
Those of us in the North Carolina Writers Network, we have the privilege, if you will, to contact colleagues in the association who do just what you're asking for as an illustrator. I don't know if any who are professional illustrators, but if she needs an illustrator, perhaps we should go through the network and ask for, 2 or 3 recommendations.
Okay, that'd be great.
Share that information with her.
That'd be great.
The reading and all that part, perhaps we are good at, but unless we are professional illustrators or artists, we need to refer to the professionals in that area.
And if
That's
you,
my,
and if you don't find what you're looking for, I would invite you to consider photographs. And I don't mean of you or your child, but generalized, take a friend's child or something that people aren't going to know, a random child or a model or something, and take photographs for the illustrations, because I know my students always reacted much differently when they saw a real person rather than a cartoon or a painting or something like that. When it was a picture, when we were reading about animals or something, if there was a cartoon of a cat, they knew that it was just a symbol of a cat. But if they saw the picture of a cat and the cat had a problem, they'd go, oh, you know, they reacted more real.
I think we're looking for more of that, the combination of the two. I don't know if you saw like the new images that they're more like I guess they call them 4D. So they look like human beings, but they're more animated.
Okay.
So it just gives a joint connection of the two.
Right.
To just bridge the gap over, with kids as well as adults.
You want somebody into computer graphics then too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't have a clue. I think MJ's got the right idea.
Yeah, I agree. MJ's idea. If you, Tatisha, you and I could talk offline, and we'll try to reach out to Deanna or someone at the association. Right now is probably not a good time because they're all up to their eyeballs on this conference. That's a 3-day conference. So
right.
I'm thinking as soon as that's over, I think it ends on Sunday. They'll probably have a little bit of space, give them a day or two to recover, and we could go ahead and approach her about that. Absolutely.
No rush. I appreciate it.
Okay, well, you guys, it's been great seeing all of you again. Yay! I can't wait to do this in French Express Cafe, or as soon as we can have a cup of coffee together. And Barb, bring your guitar, and Bill, not on the call, but bring we'll do a little jamming session and just have some fun, guys. Just
one of these days. Yep.
Yeah, have some fun. Well, thanks everyone for being here tonight, and enjoy the day. And
have a great month.
Have a great month. Absolutely.
You guys too.
Okay.
Be safe. Stay healthy.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Good luck.